Chapter 2, Rebecca Smith's, or Put It In. Disclaimer: I am not authorized to speak on behalf of the entire elite community. What follows represents only my feelings, and does not represent the feelings of the entire elite community. Being in your late 20s and early 30s is hard. It's so hard, in fact, that there are scientific and astrological explanations for what's called the quarter-life crisis. Being in this time of life is fraught with important takeaways, and sometimes hilariously pitiful bullshit. In this installment, we look at behaviors where a person thinks they're playing a mind game, but in actuality they're playing an accidental reverse mind game on themselves. While the Rebecca Smith's issue brings to light practically all aspects of the community's philosophical makeup, it's also a fun tale of how intention can get lost along the way, while self-growth either happens or it doesn't. And when it doesn't, how we can inadvertently create our own suffering. To begin, here's an explanation of the Rebecca Smith's incident. In December 2023, Twitch-era leader and possible Playboy Phil Bezguboff posts an untied 21-second run on Frigate Agent. However, he does so under the pseudonym Rebecca Smith's, or Becca. The community is suspicious, and the run is taken down from the rankings anyway due to interlacing. After a dupe of the untied, a webcam play vid with painted nails and a posting of a Surface Agent 046 tied world record on his own rankings account, enough evidence reveals her to be Phil. Some think it's funny, many others were upset, and so retribution is levied against Phil for knowingly trolling the community with what are believed to be real untieds. A few other members of the community were in on the prank as well. Whether you're on the internet or out in the real world, respect is everything. Similarly, you can't always trust people to do the right thing. Not even yourself at times. Both the world and the internet can be terrible, shitty places, and to some extent they always will be, but through intention and effort we all have power to make our environments better. Every society excludes some things, and I for one should hope that one's society primarily excludes those things that prevent us from self-actualizing, including but not limited to terror, violence, marginalization, ignorance and unchecked suffering. All of us is a product of what and who we spend time with. To not appreciate those that contribute positively to who we are is to damage one's self and one's environment. Biting the hand that feeds us is something we sometimes don't realize we've done until it's too late. In the elite it can take many forms. Whether it be not reading the proof policy before posting, poking fun at those with different beliefs as a way to express dissent, or denigrating a whole community based on the actions of only one or a few, the elite is no stranger to all kinds of unself-actualized, late 20s/early 30s missteps. Whether a mind game is being employed or not, perception of reality is crucial. Knowing that the way one perceives their surroundings begets their actions, we can study some interesting effects to the elite's internal and external reputations over time. For external reputation, those who have more public-facing personas tend to drive the external narrative of the elite, however poorly and unjustly at times. The reality is that those that have public-facing personas are only a small part of the community, and their grand, imaginative rhetoric should not be taken completely at face value. But unfortunately, it is taken at face value by many. For numerous people that have discovered the elite via YouTube videos or Twitch streams describing its history or recounting important events, their perceptions can be colored by the imaginative, capricious storytelling of those not permitted to speak for the entire community. So, when one of these personalities gets into trouble for some ignorant shit they said or did, the public narrative takes hold in an unfair way, incorporating the speaker's negligence and ignorance into the perception of the community as a whole. Scientifically, several things had to happen for the elite's external reputation to take this nosedive. There had to be a public figure erroneously speaking for the entire community in grand and whimsical ways. There had to be a moment when that figure posited a notion that was dangerously idiotic, and there had to be a person who put it on blast, perhaps playing into the public image in a way that gave public figure more attention than they deserved, while making little to no effort to mention that said notion didn't represent the entire community. And if this weren't bad enough, it's also had ripple effects for the elite's internal reputation as well, despite public figure only being one person. Some newer members have come into the community with this baggage, and may sometimes interpret situations with this lens of negative bias. Meanwhile, the equally vexing debate of date posted versus date achieved is started by an accidental philosophical oversight, and now may influence the RS situation. With unset goalposts, it's more likely the council struggles to make a meaningful decision on how to punish Phil for trolling, creating more confusion for the community. With these two dynamics acting in concert, strange things start to happen more frequently. Grudges are held, distrust creates community offshoots with varying degrees of community participation. Characters are attacked publicly, trolls troll harder, and players leave altogether. The Elite is fuctus. It's tearing itself apart. With what's at stake and how complicated the situation is, how do we go about untangling all this mess and come to an educated resolution? Let's rewind. When the community first started, it was hard as fuck to get your footage on the internet. Because of this barrier, there was natural incentive to do your best to get your GoldenEye speedrun vids posted to this special site for the privileged few, the Elite. Living within these technological constraints, players keenly knew the inevitability of someone better coming along to beat all their times if they didn't act quickly. This meant that not only did you have to get the run before anyone else, you also had to post it before anyone else. Managing to post your time got you the bragging rights, because it was challenging in multiple respects. The notion that there will always be someone better than you can't be overstated, as it is what makes the excited competition work. You think you're the only one who can get that time? Please. Welcome to the jungle, punk, take a look around. In this state of play, date posted reflects this naturally occurring hive mind of fun competition. Again, why it works. Players acknowledge the fact that someone's out there who can and will beat them. It's an inspiring feeling and an exciting way to be. In a situation where someone might have a ranked world record taken down for whatever reason, players know this is their chance to cement themselves in GoldenEye 007 history, as being the first person to post the time to the privileged rankings. Again, knowing that you're not the only one with talent and that someone may post before you is what motivates this proper mindset. In this way, it can be seen that some difficulty in posting is an essential, foundational element of the community. Later in the Elite's history, in the absence of technological constraints, setting the proof bar high is another expression of essentially the same thing. It's a transplanted method for keeping the burden of proof high in order to post, essential to the core history of the community. Now, let's look at why the date achieved mentality doesn't cut the mustard in terms of creating proper excitement. To reward world record history based on date achieved encourages players to deprioritize posting. When there's no urgency to post, you can get a time and then rest on your laurels, and troll everyone else in the meantime. Mind games and trolls of all sorts also ramp up. The mindset that evolves under date achieved is one of taking over the rankings for oneself, especially if you're highly talented. With players' times, and specifically better players' times, being honored for when they are achieved, there's no more reason for the rest of the community to grind prestigious times, as the tables have turned in favor of those that are indeed better than most. This contributes to the crumbling of goodwill, excitement, healthy competition, and therefore the community itself. It's embarrassing how at times it seems the Elite community at large struggles to deduce this key difference. What should happen is someone with enough experience should pump the brakes and say, hey, something changed and it doesn't feel good, let's figure out what happened. Several have done this. When this doesn't happen, you get a slew of evil geniuses that rest on their laurels. Evil geniuses that purport their contributing value by exposing cracks in the Elite's policies by knowingly exploiting unrehearsed situations. With love and respect, I'd like to take a moment to humiliate those that participate in this kind of activity. It takes discipline to create a community, understand how it works and fix its problems. It requires no discipline to create such problems. Which is why you don't get respect for being a flagrant asshat, even if you brought something important to light. There were more disciplined, respectful ways to bring it up that you could have chosen, and if you can't handle the feelings of that kind of discussion, or didn't know you had the option to, then make way for those of us that can. Get in line with all the other unself-actualized, emotionally stunted evil geniuses that came before you and will come after you to further cement your legacy as someone who behaved as a child that more mature people had to deal with. How could you miss that, evil genius? How could the very same disciplined construction of this community, that's yielded the reason you've participated, now be the thing you're trying to screw with? You missed it because you forgot there's always going to be someone better than you at everything you do. That's why you missed it. Another thing evil geniuses miss is that they're all boring and predictable. Please let's not encourage more to exist by adhering to date achieved. Having runs posted to the elite rankings is a privilege and not a right, which is why DataChief doesn't work. DataChief treats posting as if it is a right, and to treat it like a right is the same thing as saying you believe that only certain people are capable or deserve to get and have a given run. No one has that right because there's always going to be someone better. Posting is a privilege, and it's a privilege because it's within an exclusive community, the Golden I007 community, where you have to earn people's respect just like in real life to be included. And in order for this type of community to exist, it has have some rules and constraints. As a blueprint, the elements of the date posted mindset above illustrate how the community is basically supposed to function and get along. DataChief can never make everyone get along because it promulgates an erroneous reality of viewing posting as a right, which is not factual, and in turn tarnishes the privilege altogether. For Phil to be punished with a judgment of no trust is a way of keeping the posting privilege high, which is again the purpose of the proof policy, a transplant in place of old school technological constraints that keeps posting difficult, which makes everything work. Any way that the Elite Council wants to make it hard to post will be appropriate to the functionality of the Elite, because it's fundamental to creating healthy competition. It bears repeating that there's always going to be someone better than you, no matter what mind game you play. Even champions know this. I find in life there are ways in which we inadvertently create our own suffering. In fact, that might be most of it. Through ignorant perceptions of others and futility-minded thinking, we can accidentally disrespect each other and reduce the diversity of our communities. For those that haven't yet dealt with this in real life, fair warning, there will come a time when you have to deal with someone who is so opposite in your way of being that it temporarily makes you have a nervous breakdown. Hang in there. Their feelings and choices matter just as much as yours, for if theirs don't then yours don't either. It's your job to find ways to respect them, and respectfully disengage when their contributions are undesirable to you. Rise above it. Nobody is responsible for the way you feel except for you, and you will have to find ways to deal with this on your own. But it will make you a better person, and will earn you others' respect more frequently. Also, anyone that communicates on behalf of the entire elite community in any capacity on any public-facing platform, please stop. It's partially how we got into this ordeal. Please stop speaking for the entire community. You're smart enough to know that it's wrong, and should be able to see by now how damaging it is. To that point, and with regards to overcoming tough patches in life, we'll discover that some of the ways we've coped before are no longer working in new contexts. Learning new emotional skills can be hard. But man, does it pay off. And letting go of shit is an important skill to learn too, especially if it's a situation where the offender is actually of little consequence to your endeavors. Above all, the power to ask the right questions will bring a landscape of possibilities, curiosity, fun and happiness that you never thought was possible. And others will have helpful experience that you don't yet possess. Respect them. You will do the same for another. We adapt, we improvise, we overcome. We're all better together, and should try to put in good where we can. Unless you're an evil genius, or ignorant to what your perceptions actually amount to. In that case, lovingly put a quarter in your ass, 'cause you played yourself.